Hello and welcome to CTV News Across Canada for Thursday, April 3rd. We've got the top local stories from coast to coast, stories that affect you and the country. Thanks for joining us.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day.
The U.S. president announcing sweeping reciprocal tariffs against global trading partners. That includes imposing a 10% baseline tariff on imports to the United States.
For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far.
The president also detailing a 25% tariff on all foreign auto imports. That levy is set to take effect at midnight.
None of our companies are allowed to go into other countries. And I say that, friend and foe. And in many cases, the friend is worse than the foe in terms of trade. But such horrendous imbalances have devastated our industrial base and put our national security at risk. I don't blame these other countries at all for this calamity. I blame former presidents and past leaders who weren't doing their job. They let it happen, and they let it happen to an extent that nobody can even believe. That's why, effective at midnight, we will impose a 25% tariff on all foreign-made automobiles.
Industry experts have warned tariffs would shut down the auto manufacturing sector. Trump did not specifically name Canada when detailing the auto tariffs, but he did take aim over Canada's restrictions on dairy imports.
Countries like Canada, we subsidize a lot of countries and keep them going and keep them in business. In the case of Mexico, it's $300 billion a year. In the case of Canada, it's close to $200 billion a year. And I say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? I mean, at what point do we say you got to work for yourselves and this is why we have the big deficits. This is why we have that amount of debt that's been placed on our heads over the last number of years. And we're really not taking it anymore.
It was back on February 1st, Donald Trump announced 25% tariffs on Canadian products. But 2 days later, this delayed for a month, with Canada promising to reinforce the border. Then on March 4th, 25% tariffs went into effect, and Canada retaliated. But a day later, Trump gave the auto sector a 1-month exemption and then suspended the tariffs on items covered by the free trade agreement. Then on March 12th, U.S. steel and aluminum tariffs came into effect. As for what else this means for Canada, CTV News is also learning that non-compliant goods under the current trade deal will see a 25% tariff, and non-compliant energy and potash will see a 10% tariff. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Michelle, back to you.
Canfor ships $60 million worth of corrugated cardboard from its Surrey manufacturing facility to the U.S. each year. When it became clear Canada won't be hit with another round of tariffs, the owner was relieved, but not surprised.
The administration probably at the end of the day realized that there's a huge difference between starting a trade war with your immediate neighbor that you share the longest border with and obviously the largest amount of trade than anyone else in the world. And I think for now it seems like they've come to their senses.
At Santa Via Water Systems in Delta, where 30% of its mineralized filters are shipped south of the border.
I'm obviously happy that we don't have a massive tariff and that that part of our business is still going to be thriving tomorrow. But if you were to ask me to bet money on whether or not, that will be thriving in a month from now, I don't know.
As long as Trump's in the White House, both companies expect the tariff uncertainty to continue.
It does definitely feel like we are riding a roller coaster for sure.
I think it's going to just be like it's been the last few months, which is on again, off again tariffs, a changing landscape. And ultimately, none of that's good for the consumer, for small business like us.
While Cancor's owner hopes his American clients will ignore the turmoil and keep buying, he is actively pursuing other markets.
All the industries are preparing for self-reliancy in the long term, and that's regardless of Donald Trump and this administration, because the message has been clear, and we did feel that we've been slacking on sort of standing on our own 2 feet, and we've been relying way too much on the United States.
They're erratic. They change their minds quite often, and so we don't really know what's going on.
So Santa Via is shelving its U.S. expansion plans to focus on the U.K. and Australia. More expensive to ship, but right now, much more reliable. Shannon Patterson, CTV News.
U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs on Canadian automobiles will likely be felt throughout the entire industry. That includes used car sales and auto parts distributors.
I don't really think this is going to be good for our business or any business. It's going to affect the car dealerships significantly. We do a lot of business and have great partnerships with the car dealerships. So it's going to cause some problems.
Canadian online marketplace AutoTrader recently conducted a survey asking consumers about tariffs. Nearly half said that tariffs will have an impact on their vehicle purchasing decisions. AutoTrader says they've seen quite a bit of activity on the Canadian marketplace since the beginning of March, with check-ins sent to dealerships on the rise.
Organic traffic increased substantially. Third-party data suggests that there's more and more used car searches. When we look at the transactional data, meaning used car sales, they're also up by quite a bit.
Only around 1% of the products at the Napa Distribution Center in Moncton are affected at this point, things like hand tools and cleaning products, so McKim isn't really sure what will come of Trump's tariffs.
If I had a crystal ball, I could tell you exactly what's going to happen, but we really don't know. We don't know how it's going to affect the parts business.
McKim says Napa is in a wait-and-see pattern to determine how it will impact the company, but he's not expecting layoffs. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Moncton.
Everybody's pretty much shocked.
Michel Aymard knew 51-year-old Renee Descaries as someone who made a difference.
She was my guidance counselor at the community center and at summer camps when I was a teenager. Very sympathetic. She was glad to help anybody.
On Tuesday afternoon, police say she was stabbed to death at her home in the Beau Soleil Housing Co-op on Henny Street in Lowertown. A disturbing daytime event for neighbors like Daniel Lavigueur.
According to the details that we received from the ex-husband, the individual might have seen the individual inside or the victim inside and decided to break in.
After receiving multiple 911 calls, police arrived at just before 5 p.m. 2 people were already trying to help.
And unfortunately, her daughter was there who was able to, at least call for help. And got some assistance from a security guard or a security worker with the city who assisted and may have apprehended the suspect.
One adult was taken to hospital in stable condition. Attempts to save the victim were unsuccessful.
Had it not been for the intervention of these bystanders, that the incident could have been worse than it was. So I think it's important to recognize that many community members came in to help and assist in this situation, and we greatly appreciate their help.
Now, 24-year-old Oliver Denia of Ottawa is charged with second-degree murder. Police say the suspect is not known to Descaries. Investigators have deemed the death a femicide.
Our internal definition is the killing of any woman at the hands of a man.
Police investigators and forensic teams remain on scene Wednesday, gathering evidence.
It seems to be a very random situation.
As residents of this tight-knit community mourn the loss of their beloved friend.
The community is behind the family, thinking of them, and we're sad.
The suspect was set to appear in court today, and police urge anyone with information or video to come forward or contact Crime Stoppers anonymously. This is Ottawa's 7th homicide of the year and the second in just 4 days. Patricia.
CTV's Tyler Fleming live for us tonight. Thank you.
Classes canceled today after police were called in yesterday following a student-led protest that escalated at École Secondaire de Chambly. Etienne Dubé, who has 14s attending the school, says what started as a peaceful walkout took a wrong turn.
C'est quelque chose de beau qui est devenu laid hier.
The issue, a plan to relocate students to another school. Frustration boiled over as students pushed back against the changes. Police say as many as 300 students took part and add some were caught throwing items like food.
Certains élèves se bousculent et lancent des objets et nourriture.
He says one minor was arrested for uttering threats.
L'enquête nous a permis de...
The investigation is ongoing. He says the student was released. In a statement to CTV News, a spokesperson with the school service center says that classes are suspended Wednesday to ensure the safety of students and staff. adding that no one was injured. The school sent an email to parents saying violence, intimidation, and vandalism can never be tolerated or accepted. Students have a right to disagree, but they must do it respectfully. And that is what Dubé is hoping for when students are allowed back to school. Laurence Brisson-Dubreuil, CTV News.
In Aurelia's emergency response headquarters, the team tracking a new storm, with a state of emergency now declared across the entire county of Simcoe.
We have over 18 Ontario utilities that are coming into our devastated areas to help out with that. There's 2,800 boots on the ground to ensure that we're getting hydro up and going.
The county's declaration late Wednesday afternoon unlocking more access to provincial supports, adding to the list of communities, districts, and counties in central Ontario under an emergency.
The Premier has also been talking to the premiers of Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Quebec, and Nova Scotia about sending in their resources as well. So they're on their way.
To help hydro workers contending with devastation not seen in decades.
The worst damage we've seen since the 1998 ice storm.
Hydro crews used to working through the ice, snow, and rain, but strong winds can bring progress to a halt, with the ability to knock loose trees down and cause more outages. Hydro One says it's prioritizing main community connecting lines before addressing smaller streets and remote homes.
Because if you're not addressing the power line that supplies the power line downstream, the power won't go on.
The regulator of electrical safety in Ontario helping to support hydro crews, whether with overhead power lines or attending private homes still off the grid.
We want to get people to get their power restored as soon as possible, but in the safest manner possible.
The safety authority urging you not to go anywhere near hydro lines and to call a licensed technician if they've been knocked down. Flooding is also a huge risk.
What you can do proactively is go downstairs in your basement before anything happens, unplug everything, make sure if you have something that has to be plugged in, make sure it's elevated.
Back here live now, and Hydro One says just under 200,000 customers will remain without power this evening. It will be prioritizing the hardest hit communities first in order to hopefully restore power to them by the weekend. However, if you're in a remote area, we may not see power return for much longer. Reporting live, I'm Christian Davino. Sarah, I'll send it back to you.
Snow and ice piled up and then melted, causing slick road conditions and keeping emergency crews busy. This driver was extricated from this vehicle at Stony Trail and Old Banff Coach Road around 10:30 a.m. This SUV smashed into the light pole. EMS took the driver to hospital in non-life-threatening condition.
It's crazy.
Another vehicle slipped into the ditch near Stony Trail and Bow Trail. Some drivers say they saw lots of issues on the roads.
All sorts of stuff, people not prepared for the snow, sliding into the ditch, lots of trucks turned over.
Many in our city had to watch their step on slippery sidewalks. Others used their sled to get around and didn't skip their jog through the park. Still, some say they would rather be preparing for dry roads this time of year.
I don't mind the snow once in a while, but right now you want to have some hotter temperatures, that's for sure.
Meteorologists say warmer temperatures are on the way.
Come Friday and then definitely into Saturday and Sunday, that upper ridge, which is warm air, is going to be moving over Alberta, and that's what's bringing those temperatures right up into those low double digits.
However, she says that doesn't mean winter is actually over.
Springtime, especially in southwestern Alberta, including the city of Calgary, is actually the snowiest time of year.
And Stephanie joins us now. So Stephanie, what's the latest from emergency officials tonight?
Yes, Tara, it was a busy one for our crews. Calgary police say that between midnight and 4 p.m. this afternoon, they responded to 133 calls. Of those, 17 were injury-causing and 24 were hit-and-runs. The Alberta Motor Association says that wait times were between 1 and 3 hours throughout the day for roadside assistance. Tara.
Barbara Wesley needed her return fast when she filed her taxes last month, so she went to H&R Block and opted for an instant refund.
I'm on pension, so I have to pay my bills. What's ever left, I have to buy groceries, you know, that kind of a thing. It's getting expensive out there.
Wesley was given a prepaid MasterCard, but she says when she tried to withdraw the money, the PIN didn't work. She was worried she was out hundreds of dollars.
Apparently my MasterCard was closed and the money was still in the card, but I couldn't have access to any of the funds.
When she returned to H&R Block, she was told there was nothing they could do.
I was really disappointed. I was frustrated.
Wesley was so concerned, she said she called Winnipeg police. H&R Block gave her a new MasterCard that worked the following day.
Just beware. Ask a lot of questions.
An H&R Block spokesperson tells CTV News they can't comment on specific complaints, but pointed out the usual procedure is for clients to activate their cards online in order to receive a PIN. The spokesperson says the card won't work until it is activated. Wesley is happy she received her money, but she's not the only one reporting unexpected problems this tax season.
It was a matter of convenience and then price. I thought that was fair to do my T5 for that amount.
Wendy Sutherland says she was quoted around $55 to file her taxes at another H&R Block, but during the appointment, that cost went up to $275.
This woman said that it's because you are claiming primary caregiver amount, which is a credit for me. And I says, what does that have to do with anything?
The H&R Block spokesperson also won't comment on this matter, but said in a statement, we share with clients that our starting price is $53.99 plus tax, but pricing is ultimately impacted depending on the complexity of their tax situation. Sutherland says she left without filing her taxes and warns others to do their homework ahead of time.
There's a lot of people that would just accept this because they would feel like they have no choice.
Daniel Halmerson, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Even on a Wednesday morning, people line up to get inside this antique mall, a staple in Edmonton's Old Strathcona neighborhood.
Since the tariffs, too, we've seen a lot of people want to support local even more and support small business even more.
You could spend hours in here, I think.
A place these shoppers from Camrose say is like going on a treasure hunt down memory lane.
It's a special place because you always find something. Like, I wasn't intending on buying something today, but as you can see,
People have definitely found their holy grail here. The sports cards especially, like some people, when they break open a pack, like they found that rare card that they were looking for. Some people have been looking for a book or something on their wish list forever.
The mall's co-owner, Bobby Wiebel, says sales last month were the best they've ever seen.
2024, it was our best year in 16 years, so it's a thriving business. It can only go up.
A thriving business, but Wiebel says the time has come for someone else to take the reins.
We've put our blood, sweat, and tears in it for 16 years, and it's time for somebody else to take over and do that.
Her mom is ready to retire, while Wiebel wants to have more time for her 4 kids. This well-established antique mall could be yours for $500,000.
So that is all the leaseholds. We have 130 different vendors in here, 65 people on our wait list.
Arnie Lair has been a vendor since 1998. He can't imagine what he'd do without this place.
It's a really neat place. The people are nice, and it would be a real shame and a loss for Edmonton if it had to close.
Wiebel is confident it won't come to that.
We've had lots of interest already, and we've committed to running it until we find someone.
When it does sell, Wiebel plans to stick around as a vendor. Amanda Anderson, CTV News, Edmonton.
Region of Waterloo public health officials are at the ready, hoping to get local elementary students back in classrooms as soon as possible. That's because 1,624 of them were suspended due to incomplete vaccination records.
We reviewed every elementary student's records for vaccination for 9 diseases.
In February, Public Health issued 8,981 suspension orders, giving families until yesterday afternoon at 4:30 to get the shots they need. Director of Infectious Disease and Chief Nursing Officer for Public Health, David Aoki, said they have many vaccine appointments available, which can be booked online. You can also book with your healthcare provider.
We did everything we could to try and reduce the number that was suspended today, and now we're trying to resolve all those who are suspended.
And there is a disease circulating southwestern Ontario, which health officials say is posing a threat.
When we usually do this, there's not the active risk of measles being out there. Measles is one that we haven't seen in Ontario in regular numbers in quite a while.
There are 14 confirmed cases of measles in Waterloo region, with health officials expecting that number to rise. Plus, with measles cases in surrounding communities also climbing, families locally are being asked to take all precautions necessary.
While we only have 14 cases, there are no fences or borders between our neighbors, and we often, live, work, and play outside of the region.
There are circumstances, though, where students may be exempt from vaccinations due to health or religious reasons.
We're not asking anyone to do anything that's beyond their belief system or what would be medically dangerous for them as well.
And public health aims to have measles immunization rates around 90% or higher, which was the case pre-pandemic. They anticipate getting back to those levels at the end of this year. Tony.
Okay, Spencer Turcotte, thank you for that update.
Measles is here. It is an equal opportunity illness.
Dr. Nin Tran, Southwestern Medical Officer of Health, held another update today, informing the public about the rising cases of measles in his region and encouraging vaccination.
Unlike the flu or COVID vaccine, which mainly is to lessen the severity of an infection, 2 doses of measles-containing vaccine prevents the infection altogether.
Public Health Ontario has linked all but 22 of the province's cases to a travel-related case in New Brunswick last fall. Since October of 2024, there have been 296 cases reported to the Southwestern Public Health. This amounts to the highest case count in any jurisdiction in Ontario.
The vast majority of our cases are not up to date to the vaccine, and over 90% have never had a dose of measles-containing vaccine.
Meanwhile, the Middlesex London Health Unit is not seeing the same numbers, reporting 17 since last fall. However, there is still concern since most cases are in children. In its last community update, LHSC cited vaccine hesitancy and religious or cultural reasons among the factors. Dr. Chan says despite speculation about certain communities being impacted by measles, he says personal risk is specifically tied to vaccination history and exposure.
Aligning cases too closely to any single population or community can provide a false sense of security for the general public.
Dr. Chan says their vaccination efforts remain in children as they conduct school-based record reviews. Hundreds of doses have been administered through post-exposure and clinics targeting 6 to 11-month-old babies. Rita Ismail, CTV News.
Hydrogen has been gaining popularity worldwide as a potential clean, sustainable energy source to fuel the future. But in order to meet high energy demands like utility infrastructure, large volumes of hydrogen would need to be transported by pipelines.
There have been proposals to actually transport hydrogen gas in natural gas pipelines. The existing natural gas pipelines.
One challenge with hydrogen is that it has a low density by volume, meaning it takes much more hydrogen transported under high pressure to be economically viable. Another challenge is that under high pressure, hydrogen atoms can diffuse into the steel, which makes it brittle and prone to cracking, called hydrogen embrittlement.
So we need pipeline steels that are strong enough to withstand these pressures and also not be failure resistant to hydrogen embrittlement.
Using the BMIT beamline at the Canadian Light Source, Jack and his team were able to get 3D images of the cracking behavior in different types of steel and how the cracks change when stress is applied. Jack says in order to meet sustainability goals of zero emissions, the use of fuels like hydrogen are necessary. But he says it's a balancing act because high-strength steel is more susceptible to embrittlement, but pipelines need to be strong and safe.
Research is still ongoing for this, and yeah, it's promising because a lot of researchers are on this, and we are doing our part to contribute to this body of knowledge.
The government of Saskatchewan maintains oversight over all provincially regulated pipeline infrastructure, including for hydrogen transport. It says a number of facilities currently produce hydrogen for fertilizer production and petroleum refining. Quote, the government of Saskatchewan is supportive of private sector-led hydrogen projects and continues to monitor opportunities in the industry. However, there are no known new hydrogen projects at an advanced stage of development in the province. John Flatters, CTV News, Saskatoon.